Hello, welcome to Collaboration Over Competition. We are talking about the power of authentic networking. So, welcome. I'm your host and your guide today as we really step out of the old paradigm of networking, where it's like just handing business cards and just pitching your pitch at people, and really to step into having a network where we really empower and lift up that quote, that saying, your net worth is in your network. So I'm Izzy Nally, and what qualifies me to teach you about networking? Well, I've been doing it for a really long time, and I'd love to tell you to start with a story of the first time that I went to networking. And over the years is how I saw that networking wasn't working and how so many of us were craving a better way of doing things. And what I did is I really started working with some of the top teachers in this field. I started analyzing and really viewing and studying how these people that were at the top, that were going quickly, in parentheses or air quotes, from the bottom to millionaire, to multimillionaire, to billionaire, and how they were doing it in such a heart centered way. And I started really noticing that they all had this this tribe, this network that they could call on and lean into. And I'm like, how did they do that? How did that happen? So that's one of the things that we're really going to be looking at through this series. Now, this is episode 2, or session 2 within this series. So if you missed session 1, please go back and watch that. There is some crucial information that will help guide you as we progress each session. We are progressing. This is more than just mindset and concepts. These are actionable steps that you are going to have each and every session. So there is homework, but it is homework for you to open up new opportunities, to open up more possibilities, to really shift out of your bubble. Because so many of us do that as we have this bubble and we're sitting there trying to figure out how to accomplish our dreams. And we get so stuck in whether I feel like I have enough motivation or if I'm feeling focused today. And we're sitting there trying to map out all these details. And maybe we're over here doing our SMART goals too. And although those things are great, we often forget or we get fearful of who we need to know. And maybe it's not even a specific person, but a type of person that we would need to know that could help us along this path. That these people become like, you're playing Mario Kart and you hit these little boost ups where it like makes your cart go a little bit faster. That's what we're really looking to do through this. Now, that's a surface level view. As we really dive into this today, you will see that this is such a deeper way of networking, that this is really truly about improving your relationships. And as we pick one way of life to focus on, it still fairly is the new year. As we focus on one thing, we'll start to see that there is a ripple effect. So, as we focus on our networking skills and deepening relationships, this will trickle over into improving our family relationships, our friend relationships, and of course, our business relationships, because we are a human and everything is holistic. So, looking at it from that perspective, I really want to set this frame of mind as we step in today. So let's start with networking and how it currently is. The first networking session that I went to, I was doing an entrepreneurship program at JCC, or for us who are local, Jefferson Community College, and I had gotten a full scholarship for this business program, which I was super excited. And at the end of this program, they selected 2 students that would get a free ticket. And at the time, it was a $50 ticket to networking, which back then that was more expensive. But for me, as a complete noob, uh, I was like, I had no idea what I was stepping into. I had no idea what to do at a networking session. I had no idea like how to present myself. I didn't know what to talk about. I didn't have a pitch. So let's just start there. It's at the Muhammad Ali Center here, which was very, very new at the time. And I'm going in and I'm like, of course, I'm like, what am I wearing? What am I supposed to wear? And so I remember I had a dress that I had wore to a wedding because I didn't really have a ton of fancy clothes at that time. And I put this dress on and I show up and I even put a business coat over top of it because I was like, oh, I don't want to look too sexy. And so I show up and it's a room full of men. It's just a room full of men. And I've got my little paper sticky name tag, which kept falling off the whole time. And I'm trying to make sure that everyone can see my name. And I get in there, and everyone is wanting to know basically, like, am I an investor? What can I do for them? And no one except towards the end of the session, actually there was two people that came up and they could see that I was new and they're like, let me help you and show you around. I will never forget those people. It was two guys. Other than that, though, I fumbled and I felt so out of place. And I'm a pretty outgoing person, but the conversations were so direct and so focused. And these people knew exactly what they wanted and who they needed to talk to. And not saying there's anything wrong with that, but for someone coming into this, how does someone that is wanting to open up their world of possibilities step into a room like that? And we're going to talk about that today. So that even if you're going into a networking event and you have no idea what you should be talking about, that you have really no great sales pitch, that you're really not sure what to do, what you can do. But also, how can we, again, change this networking paradigm so that one, the world just becomes a better place, right? Who wouldn't like that? Um, but so that we can co-create together. And I talked about this a lot last episode of how do we co-create? That is the power of authentic networking. This is this new way of up leveling our networking. So, whether you've been networking and you're looking for a new way because you're tired of just going and passing out business cards and giving your pitch and not getting anything really from it, that at the end of the day, you don't have a list of people that you can actually call up as mentors and as your equals and network. We really should, and it's kind of that power of six within your community, you being one of six or you having six, either one's fine. But of your circle of people, your key people that you lean on, and it's okay for this circle to shift, for your people to be changed out and swapped out as you are continuing to grow. And it doesn't mean they're lost forever. It just means your core network, that these people are the people that you can call on, that you can lean on, that you can refer people to confidently, but are also your support too, so that you become your own mini mastermind. Wouldn't that be amazing? So that's what we really want to lean into as we continue through this series. Now, each session, I will be giving you homework, and these homework sessions layer on top of each other to build your confidence, to make sure that this is not too big of a leap so that you pull back and go, I don't know, I don't think I can do that. We want to stair step this so that you are building your confidence and you're building the foundations as we go along. So last week, your homework was to really get into this state of gratitude and reflecting back on the people that have inspired you, who have mentored you, who have given you opportunities. And to one, if they're no longer present with us on earth, you can write them a letter. But really, truly, that little bit of a push is to send a DM, to send an email, to give someone a call, because you might be out of touch with that person. And just to give them a call and just say, hey, I don't know if I ever let you know, but you really made an impact on my life. And I just wanted to say thank you. No strings attached, just saying thank you. Okay. Yes. So someone says they're like, how amazing would it be to find these six people? And you can. You can find these six people. And it's going to happen. My hope for you is within the next 3 months that you'll have this. Because we're going to be meeting every week to go through this training. All right. So, one of your homework assignments from last week, again, was to send these notes of gratitude to reflect back. And this is important on so many levels of one, yes, getting us in the gratitude state of reflecting back on our journey and who our mentors, who our help have been, so that we can reinforce this at a mental, energetic, soul, heart level that this is possible, that it's been done before in our lives. And as we get ourselves into that state, it helps the next phase of today's homework and assignment and task to be completed. All right. So I introduced this word last week of porosity, of this opening up. And we're going to dive into that further of what is porosity. And we talked about how when we open someone else up, we're allowing them to trust us. Otherwise, they're putting up their wall. So, how do we actually put that into play? Well, first we need to break down that word. Porosity, how we get to that is by bringing in generosity and intimacy. Now, for a lot of us, we hear these words and we might already have some connotations built with those. So, I'm going to come to generosity second. Let's start with intimacy. So, with intimacy, we often think something like my partner, my spouse, something along that lines. But here we're really looking at this closeness as a close friend or family member. For some of us, we don't even have that genuine type of relationship, and that's okay if you have or have not experienced this before. We're going to work on this, and this is why this training is so important for me to gift to you, because so many of us are struggling with relationships, or the relationships that we have been so limited. I heard one of my cousins say at one point, and I loved it because it can be so true. Why is it sometimes with family we feel like we can be the meanest? The same thing, some of our close relationships, we can feel like we'd be the meanest. And that's not true for everyone, but I know that there are people out there that feel this way. And so how do we shift this and relearn these ways? So, in building intimacy, it really requires that we show up authentically. And for us to show up authentically, we need to know who we are, what we want to inspire in others, how we want to show up, and how we want to be seen, but not in a way that we're doing it in a way that's fake, that we're trying to be someone we're not, in a way that we're showing up truly how we are. Like, I love that I can show up and I can be my nerdy self. And I can own that. I can say, yes, I love books. I love reading. I love studying. I'm working on my PhD right now in metaphysics, and I can totally nerd out, geek out, and tell you all about these little details. And I want people to see that true side of me, that I'm not going to try to go, oh, yes, I like this because you like this. For me to be able to say, well, that's great. I love that you like that. That's not really my thing, but I love that you love that. And so we have to step out of this people pleasing and allowing ourselves to show up as ourselves. And that can be really challenging because, again, it is in our wiring, it is in our development that we learn that we need to fit in order to thrive. this goes back to caveman time. That if we were to be outcasted by our tribe, that would often mean death. And we have to reprogram our minds to say, I can be me. Actually, in our culture, for you to truly show up as yourself allows you to stand out. Now, part of our survival mind comes back in and goes, well, if I stand out and I mess up, then I might be outcasted. And it keeps coming back to that same survival mindset. So we need to watch the thoughts and the fears that come up, the objections, the blocks that can come up when we are talking about showing up authentically. But I will tell you that to show up authentically typically gives other people permission to authentically be themselves too. That's what typically happens. So know that as you show up authentically and you get to be yourself unapologetically, that we do it not in a like, get out of my way, let me be me and push you down if you don't like me. But if someone doesn't like you, that we learn how to be okay with that. Because guess what? There's people that I follow on social media that I purchase from, that I buy from, that I don't necessarily like them 100%, but I like that they're authentically being them. I like that they are confident in what they're talking about and they know what they're talking about. Give yourself permission to be you, to set aside the people pleasing, to say, yes, this is who I am, and educate people about who you are is something that is so important for our relationships. This is something that, you know, we see this in a lot of Eastern philosophy of like, hey, you have to first focus on yourself before we can make the world a better place. Like, how do we make the world a better place? One person at a time. That one person starts with you. This is that work. And so we need to address this, and we'll continue to address it throughout this series because more and more things are going to show up each week. And as these things show up each week, like we have to continue to address them. So I recommend journaling throughout this process because we think we'll remember. This is always me too. I think I'm going to remember this insight. And to a certain degree, I do. And then I'll forget about it until it comes up at some other point, right? So it's beautiful to have these reflections to see how far you're going to come in 2024. All right. So authentic does mean that we have to be vulnerable. And I'm just going to touch on this for just a moment more because if you want to explore this topic more, I do really recommend that you read some Brene Brown books. On Daring Greatly is a great one that really talks about how we step into our own authenticity and the vulnerability that that requires. So, knowing that it is a brave thing to show up authentically you, because again of all of these wirings in our mind and these fear eliciting responses that we naturally have. Public speaking is the number one biggest fear over death. And that is exactly why I just told you. As a hypnotherapist, this is one of the things that we have to work on and reprogramming that fear for people that do want to be public speaking, to be in public speaking. So, authenticity, this intimacy, is what we're really defining. And this is going to be really important as we move into this next section because porosity is a combination of generosity and intimacy. Now, as we look at generosity, some of these same things can come up for us, these fears. And I'm going to give you action steps on how to actually put this into play this week. So, generosity, we often have this fear of, maybe this has happened to you before, where you give a little and then someone takes advantage of it. And so we pull back. And so we refrain from giving because we have this fear of being taken advantage of. But in generosity, what we're really hoping is to create reciprocity so that we are giving in which we want to receive back. So, in order to receive generosity from someone, for them to become porous, to trust us, to maybe give us a connection as we gave them a connection, we have to lead with the generosity. And I'm going to explain this further, but first, I do want to point out that this is not teaching you how to do a tit for tat, a this for that, a keeping of score to say, well, I helped them, they're supposed to help me back. That is not what this is. Okay. So I caution you, do not be that person. And if you found yourself thinking in that way, please release it, because that will not set the tone for trust. That is a transaction, not a relationship. So we are looking for this more unconditional vibe versus this conditional vibe. And I know I've grown up in a very conditional world where it was a tit for tat, a very much I scratch your back, you scratch mine. That is not what we're doing here, because again, that is transactional. What we're talking about is relationships. Okay. So pointing that out as we start. So, a story of one of my mentors, he talked about how he had became a caddy for golfing, and his dad, being an Italian immigrant, had told him, you got to show up a half an hour early to work every day. And he was like, Dad, there's no one there, there's no need for me to show up at work early. But his dad repeated it several times. He knew his dad wouldn't stop, so he went ahead, he did it. As he showed up every day, at least a half an hour early, he started noticing that on certain days the grass was mowed certain ways, and he started up picking up little nuances. And although he was really bored and didn't think he was learning anything, it turned out that he was. And so he had one person that he was a caddy for, Mrs. P. And he would tell Miss P these little tips, and it actually improved her stroke score by several points. And of course, for anybody that networks on the golf course knows that that is definitely a good thing, right? And he didn't think anything of it other than he was just trying to do his job really well. And he just wanted to be the best at what he was doing. And so he was showing up and he was just being his best. Mrs. P started to take an interest in him. And she took an interest in him, asking him, like, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, what do you want your career to be? And as these conversations started occurring more, he had to let his guard down and allow himself to build an authentic relationship by being authentic. And sure enough, she started introducing him to people that he could have conversations with and learn more about these interests, because everything happens through conversation. So we would have this conversation and learn about these fields, and he started learning a ton. He actually ended up having people pay for him to go to Harvard later on. And because he really did show up authentically in these relationships. But the reason Mrs. P took an interest in him not was because she thought he was better than others or she was just being nice. And it might not have been she was even doing this consciously, but she really appreciated the generosity of him being his best and giving her these tips that improved her game. And she had this a positive association with him. People remember you based on how you make them feel. He made her feel like she was stepping up. And so, in turn, she wanted to help him step up. I just thought that was a great story that I wanted to share with you, because it really does emphasize this concept of implementing generosity and showing up. So, I'm going to introduce you now to what is called the authentic networking generosity pyramid. So we're talking about authentic networking. It's called the generosity pyramid. So imagine a pyramid, and there's going to be 3 layers within this pyramid. The base of this pyramid is where we have to start with these relationships. Okay. So pen and paper, write this down. The first one is value add, which is universal currency. So universal currency is adding value. How we do this is we give compliments, we give praises, we celebrate people, we acknowledge that they have purpose, we acknowledge and praise what they are doing well. This is a positive impact. So, this is the bottom tier. This is going to be one of your homework assignments. Hint, hint. So, this bottom tier is the universal currency of value add. We are showing them that they are valuable, and we're doing that through praise, compliments, celebrating them. This is super important. If you have a friend that is doing something or has done something, go celebrate them. So as we step into the homework assignment, it's going to be easiest for you to do this with people that you already know, that are already within your network, so that we can strengthen the network that you have. Don't worry, we're going to talk about further in the series of how to expand out. So that's that first layer. The second layer is your professional layer, and this is of the person. So if you have a person that you're wanting to create a better relationship with, we start with this bottom tier of making sure that we're giving them value. The second one is professional. So we want to make sure that we're showing up and delivering great customer service, a great product. How are we serving professionally? So maybe you've made the connection, and then how you deliver whatever it is that you're going to do, showing up with the best customer service, the best communication, the best service, the best delivery, the best product. And then the second one, or the top one, is personal. And this is how we understand them. We understand them. And what our biggest homework assignment that we want to do, so the second tier of the homework assignment, is asking, how can I help? And a lot of times this how can I help falls into those second tiers, the professional and the personal. Professional might be, hey, how can I help you professionally? Meaning, like, can I introduce you to someone? Is there something that you need to enhance your career? Maybe it's helping them get their product, their service, their name to someone. The other one can say, how can I help you meet your goals? What's your career goals? Getting a little bit personal. So, how can I help you learn more about this thing that you want to learn about? Now, I will tell you, I've gone into that and I've done that, and I've messaged people and I make that instant connection where we've been in networks together, but we really haven't had a conversation. And if I just message them and say, hey, I'm here to help, let me know if there's any connections that you need. Sometimes people can put their wall up and they can be like, oh, great, I'm good right now. Like, that's weird. What do they want? Right? People have these walls. And so that's why this bottom tier layer is really important. So how can we do this? Well, within the social media world, right? Like if you have connections on Facebook, on LinkedIn, maybe you're on LinkedIn and someone's celebrating a new job, you want to first start with commenting underneath the post. Congratulations, that's so amazing. Ask a question. Dive in deeper. So you could ask that question there in the thread. You might comment on the thread and then DM them and be like, "Hey, I saw your new job promotion, or hey, I saw that you just wrote a book. And tell me more about that. Like, what inspired you to write a book? What inspired you, or what did you have to do to get that job promotion? So awesome. Be curious. Be curious, because generosity really can be lending your ears. Generosity really can be asking a question, giving a compliment. We need to not pull back, but we need to set a foundation, because if our top is unstable on the top of our pyramid, or if we're sitting here going, I don't know why I can't build a network, we need to start with these basics. So what if, and this is going to be at different levels depending on where we are in our entrepreneur or networking journey. So for those who are a little less advanced or at the beginning of the path, your assignment this week is going to be 5 people. 5 people to go give compliments, or if you already have been giving them compliments, to ask, hey, how can I help? Is there a connection that you need? Or, hey, could you tell me who your ideal client is, or what you're looking for next in your career so that I can keep an eye out for you? And if you need that excuse, you could say, hey, I'm doing this course on expanding my networking and improving and stretching. And my coach has told me that I need to put myself out there and help more people. So I've selected you, and you're one of those people that I'm saying, like, how can I help you this week? And then say, by connecting you with someone, by keeping an ear open for you. So you can use me as an excuse. For those who have been doing this for a while, your job is 10 people to give compliments, to celebrate, to go message them and say, hey, I'm on a mission to connect more people with people. And again, you can refer back to me as well. So as we do that, yes, you're going to have to be a little vulnerable, right? So we're coming back to that intimacy. You're also giving and creating some generosity. And I am asking you to stretch. But I'm asking you to stretch because think about how much better the world would be, how much we can all lift each other up and succeed together if we could do this. Now, these sessions are weekly on Tuesdays, so you have an entire week. I'm not saying that you have to do the 5 or 10 in one day, although you could. You could send those messages and then continue to follow up with them for the rest of the week. But I also caution you not to delay and put it off until. So creating a strategy to go, okay, I'm going to message 2 people per day. Or I'm going to message everyone today. Or I'm going to create my list of people to message today, and then I'm going to do it tomorrow. Do not put this off to the last minute. That's easy to do because it might be uncomfortable, because this is a stretch. So things that I really want you to remember and take away is, point 1 is that people remember you based on how you make them feel. 2, that there is a difference between talking with people and talking at them, that we need to listen. We're cautioning yourself of always having the first word. And then 3 is to notice your fears. So as I mentioned at the beginning, talking about how when you go to one of these networking events and you don't know what to do, you walk in and you listen. You ask people first about them. And as you ask about them, maybe you even have a notebook and you're like, I'm going to write this down. Do you have a business card? People love when you ask for their business card. And I'm gonna write it down, and I want to keep an ear open for people that you need to be connected with. Who can I, when I find them? And you might even be able to do it within that same networking event, that it becomes your job, your mission to connect people together. And guess what? They are going to remember you. They are going to remember you because you helped build their connections and their network. In this process, you are also filtering out maybe some of these people that you're connecting you want in your network too. And we're going to begin to build that network as well. In order to be remembered, we have to be worthy of being remembered. That has nothing to do with your personal self worth. That has to do with the actions that you displayed to the people within the network that you're building. So, your homework today is to get into porosity by giving generosity and getting vulnerable with some authenticity. You have your homework assignment, and I will see you next week as we talk about being bold and authentic even more to be able to really stand out and be okay with that, and how to do it in a beautiful way that shines. All right, see you later.